Just yesterday, Governor Greg Abbott gave the green light for Texas to enter phase 2 of its reopening plan. Thousands of businesses will be able to reopen to the public this month. Governor Greg Abbott is joining us now live from his Austin studio. Good morning to you, Governor. Excuse me, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How you doing? That's all right.
Doing all right. Got to get day and night straightened out. You know,
Exactly.
I want to point out, you said yesterday that your decision is based unanimously by doctors and that it's driven by data, but you also said something very important, and that's that you want people to know COVID-19 is still in Texas. And so talk to us about the balance you're trying to strike here with coexisting with this virus.
Sure. So what we have seen is, remember that even during the time of the stay-at-home policy, there were more than half of the businesses in the state that were operational, such as grocery stores, heavy industry, construction, and things like that. And then in phase 1, there was even more open, such as restaurants and retail centers, et cetera. During the entirety of that time, we saw an ongoing downward trajectory of the positivity rate. That is, the percentage of the people who tested positive. That is exactly the criteria that the White House Coronavirus Strike Force says to look at. So what that shows is that Texas, as a state, people here in Austin are doing a good job to slow the spread of the coronavirus, and that allows businesses to open back up. However, because COVID-19 still exists in Texas, and because there's not yet a cure for it, that means as we open up, as we go out to restaurants, as I have 4 times here in Austin, as people may go to a bar, wherever, we need to maintain these safe distancing practices. When I'm at a restaurant, I'm at least 6 feet, if not further than that, away from other people who are there. Bars need to do the same thing as they open up, etc. And if everybody can be safe as we open up, it means we can engage in business even more.
You said if, so I want to know, is there a marker for you, some data set that would make you say, okay, perhaps we need to slow down on reopening?
Sure. There's a couple of data that we look at that are very important. First and foremost is, what is the hospitalization rate and what is the hospitalization capacity? We never want to be in a situation like New York was in, where they didn't have enough hospital rooms to take care of everybody, or maybe they ran out of ventilators. We have plenty of hospital rooms, we have plenty of ventilators, we have plenty of ability to take care of people. The other thing is we look for spikes. It could be spikes in the number of people testing positive, but more likely we're looking at spikes in the positivity rate. Sometimes that happens, like as in right now in the Amarillo area, where there is a spike connected to a meat or several meat packing facilities there. Hence, they were not able to open up right now like other places of the state of Texas. We have surge response teams in there working to corral the coronavirus at that particular location. We've done this many times across the state. It takes about a week to stabilize it, and then everything proceeds normally.
You know, you've outlined some very specific opening dates, criteria for businesses, even protocols that customers should follow if they're going to go to these businesses. But how is all of this being enforced, particularly now that, you know, jail time is off the table for people who violate your orders?
So listen, there's always different mechanisms for enforcement. One was jail time. And in a pandemic situation like this, I just thought that jail time was not an appropriate standard for someone who is trying to run a business and is unable to do so due to no fault of their own. There are other types of enforcement. There is still the fine that is in there. And then there's what you would call regulatory enforcement. As you and your viewers may know, there's the TABC, the Texas Alcohol Beverage Commission, that's in charge of reviewing the standards to make sure that bars are in compliance with their standards even before the coronavirus. And so they still have that same enforcement mechanism. And the same thing is true for a lot of different types of businesses. They have a regulatory agency that oversees their operations to make sure they are operating correctly.
Governor, you know, I want to talk to you a little bit about voting. We just got some breaking news. A federal judge in San Antonio ruled that the option to vote by mail should be expanded in Texas based on an undue burden on people under the age of 65. We've got this other state case that the Texas Supreme Court is going to weigh in. I know it's going to be all worked out in the courts, but there are people on both sides of the aisle who say we should expand voting by mail during this pandemic. We want to know, where do you stand on this?
First, I feel like I'm watching like a tennis match where the ball keep going back and forth across the net from one court to another, and one decision the other. And so I think you may know that the state-based case is in the Texas Supreme Court right now. And apparently, as you point out, and I did not know, there's this federal-based ruling. I think both of them are going to wind up at the U.S. Supreme Court pretty quickly. Here's the important deal, and that is we want people to be able to vote based upon our current laws. We want them to be able to vote safely, and we want to do so in a way that does the most to reduce any potential fraud. We sought to achieve that, if you would, in the elections that are taking place this July, which are the runoff elections, by extending the time period for early voting to make sure that everyone's going to have plenty of time to be able to go voting in ways in which there won't be very many people there, hence reducing the potential of contact and hence reducing the spread of COVID-19.
All right, Governor Abbott, I thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us. Unfortunately, that is my time. Our producer is in our ear. So again, we thank you for taking some time to chat with us, and KVUE News will continue right after this.